welcome in. Today we're going to dive into alchemy. I'm inspired to share a story, a personal anecdote of a powerful alchemical experience that I had, and it literally turned a super ishy situation into gold. So this is the scenario. I was living at a home where the neighbors built a deck in front of our view, which we had like a beautiful forest view at our home. And the neighbors ended up building this deck, and it turned out to be a huge party deck. So not only was it a crazy eyesore, it was also an ear sore, so to speak. And it was really disturbing all of us. Like from every view, you could see this thing. Our beautiful, pristine view was completely gone. And it was a real bummer. So I remember I actually wasn't even as disturbed as some of the other folks in the household, but I remember just thinking, what can I do about this situation? Like, how can we improve this? Because, we're living here and this is the situation. And I just got a download from Spirit, and it was like, plant flowers. So that's what I started doing. I started planting flowers. I planted so many flowers. We had a deck as well, and I created the most beautiful, to this day, flower garden ever. It was that I had cultivated personally, and it was an entire ecosystem by the end of the summer. I had every kind of creature in there, from praying mantises and toads and frogs and butterflies and bees and hummingbirds, solitary bees, carpenter bees, all kinds of creatures. We had all kinds of flowers. And eventually it became kind of the talk of the neighborhood. People started coming by. The flower garden was pretty huge. I did not go small here. I just kept going with it. That I didn't even see the deck. We couldn't even see the neighbor's deck after a while because we had so many flowers and just such an ecosystem. There was always some critter or creature coming by. And our flower garden became the talk of the town, which wasn't the point. It was just so beautiful for us because we could see it from every window. And this was really my first kind of really obvious example of where you're given a situation that's not ideal, and actually we came out winning because our views became more beautiful than they were before the neighbors had built this deck. And I had so much fun cultivating this garden. And it was honestly, I'm kind of a little bit of a Taoist, it was just like this really deep dive into Taoism and just cultivation, and how I started to learn how, sometimes some creatures like to overgrow and take over and take a little bit more space, and you got to cut them back a little bit. I also remember, for example, we had a bunch of aphids came in because this is nature balancing itself out. Aphids came in because some of these plants became overgrown. So nature comes in to kind of like thin them out a little bit. And then the ladybugs came to get the aphids. And I remember at one point I had this one particular species of flowers that's a little bit invasive. And I noticed the carpenter bees started to come, and they started to rob the nectar from these flowers. And at first I was like, oh, is that fair? And then I looked it up and I realized, oh my gosh, this flower species happens to be invasive here. And I thought, how clever. Nature is coming to balance it out. Carpenter bees are coming and they're robbing the nectar without spreading more pollen around. And it was just a beautiful example of how we create ecosystems and how we can alchemize. This is literally, it was taking a really, really unpleasant situation, and we actually came out winning. So this is my brief but very powerful story in alchemy. And it was just creating flowers, which is turning an ishy situation into a golden situation where we got so much joy. And it was really that neighbor building that deck, we turned it into a blessing for ourselves. If you enjoyed this message, please share your beautiful energy, like, share, comment, subscribe. And this is a new channel, so I super appreciate it. We're diving into metaphysics, manifesting, mysticism, and the nature of reality here. If you're interested in coaching or Akashic record readings or visionary art, you'll find that information in the description box. Thank you so much for visiting, and see you in the next message.